Hey guys, welcome to Girl Meets Screen. My name's Norma. As you can see by the title, we're talking about Bel-Air today. Last episode just aired this Friday. And so yeah, we're just gonna chat. So a little background. This show was started based off of fan fiction by Morgan Cooper. He did like a little fanfic short film of like what Fresh Prince of Bel-Air would be like if it was like made in these times. And basically the show is like an extension of the short film. So it's really, really dope. I think it's such a sick concept that like it's not your typical spin-off, right? It's not your regular girl. It's a spin-off, and the only similarities really are that everyone has the same names, and that the plot lines are extensions of the plot lines in the original show. For example, in the original show, Carlton I think has like an episode with like a situation with taking speed. And so that's extended, where in this show he has a full-blown drug use disorder. And so yeah, like things like that. But it's so dope to me that it's like a spin-off, but it's all its own, right? Like it's not relying on the fame of the show before, or like, you know, what the show used to be and the nostalgia that it brought, because I think that's where things get messed up. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the week, but yeah. And I love though that like the characters kind of still have this essence of the original characters. So we're introduced to Will. Great, you know, great in school, great at basketball, loved by many, like, you know, the whole nine. We start off in this show with that background, seeing him in Philly, seeing him with his mom, interacting with his friend, things around him in his community. And so basically, I guess in one little fight and his mom got scared, but a little bit more intense, because he basically ends up like pulling out a gun that was in his friend's bag, gets arrested. His mom gets Uncle Phil to basically get this wipe swept under the rug, and he goes to stay with them in Bel-Air. Rashad, who is the like thug or whatever that he gets into the fight with, thinks that he snitched, or is, and on top of that is feeling disrespect for what happened on the basketball court. So like, you know, he got a bounty on his head and all that. And now Trey is also in danger, who is Will's friend. So that situation happens. Now he's in Bel-Air. Trey is like, you know, hitting him up, letting him know like, yo, he's looking for you, they're looking for me, you know. So he tries to like get back there. They pull him back. They're like, man, like, you got a second chance, you got to take it, you know, etc., etc. We meet Jazz, who like picks him up at the airport. He like sees him as like calls an Uber, right? Because he ignores like the whole chauffeur thing. And what I love about this Jazz, I love the original Jazz, but I love this Jazz. He plays more of like a mentor role to Will, where the original Jazz was more of just like his boy, you know, like someone on his level, just my friend, we'd be chilling. I like that they made Jazz sort of like this, you know, wise mentor. Like he's still young, but like, just, you know, I don't know, I just love the vibes of their friendship in this show a lot. Carlton, which I still quite am like, where does this come from? Like there's so much animosity towards Will from Carlton off rip. Like nothing happens, it's just off rip, and you're like, okay, I guess. But yeah, basically Carlton doesn't like Will. Will finds out Carlton is using drugs. Carlton tries to act like it's just his anxiety meds, and he's just taking them in a different way, which he is not. We meet, who else do we meet? We meet Hillary, who is an influencer trying to, you know, figure out her life, do her thing. Similar to the original Hillary, she's left college, doesn't really know like what life is gonna be for her. We end this episode with the boys going to a pool party. Things go down. Will is getting close to Lisa, who is Carlton's ex-girlfriend. Carlton is jealous, pushes him in the pool, can't swim. Lisa saves him, he punches Carlton. So that's where that episode ends. Next episode, Will goes to school. Carlton basically is making it super hard for him at the school because, you know, he's like known and loved or whatever, respected. Will figures out how to join the basketball team. In the beginning of this episode as well, Trey ends up getting shot, so Will is grappling with the guilt of that. Some background things in this episode: we have Hillary figuring out the influencer life. We have Uncle Phil starting to see that people are feeling like he's lost touch with his roots. And then we end this episode with school security finding drugs in Will's bag. Going into the next episode, we find out it was Connor, Carlton's very racist friend, who put the drugs in Will's bag. Carlton is like, why would you do that? That's dumb. They end up basically finding a way to get Will out of it because they don't want to get in trouble. Uncle Phil takes Will and Carlton to this event for his fraternity. Now this is where like I fall in love with Will. Like I feel like he has so much of like the original Will in him. Like he just watched Fresh Prince like when he found out he got the role and was just like, I gotta do this justice. Because there's so many little moments, but he like makes Will his own, but like there's so many moments where you're just like, that's such a like Will thing, like I think that the original Fresh Prince would do, and you really see that a lot in this episode. But basically Uncle Phil is going to this event to convince the Reverend, who is also in the fraternity, to back him. The Reverend is making it hard for him. Reverend's basically like, bro, you've lost touch, you're bugging. Carlton is going to this event because he's trying to get an internship to look good for college, and he knows that the person who like runs it is there. So Carlton is like kissing this person's butt for this internship, right? And so, okay, let me break it down how these things go for these people. So for Carlton, he and Will are told to like do tables and chairs, right, by this one guy. And Carlton ditches that to go like hang out with this guy, try to get good with this guy to get the internship, right? So at the end of it all, he finds out that the guy who he ditched, right, the tables and chairs situation, is who now runs that internship. So he goes, I'm sure you left a good impression for him. And it's like, no, because I actually ditched what he asked me to do. And he was like being a smartass about having to do it with this dude. So like he just left a bad impression. Then we have the Uncle Phil situation. Dude tells Uncle Phil off. Will is seeing it. Will is like, how do I help him? So in very, very Will fashion, which this is what I'm saying. Like this is where I was just like, I just love like, it's like a nostalgic feeling without feeling like this is corny. They're just redoing. You're right. Like you're just recycling. Will gets on stage, you know, he's like talking ish about the fraternity, like just egging him on. And they're all like, you better get your nephew off the stage. What is this? Da-da-da. And so he gets up and he's like, you know, you do the dances. And he's like, you got to show me, Uncle Phil, show me, whatever. So basically he gets Uncle Phil to like do his thing, you know, his stepping thing, and then everybody loves him again. And the Reverend's like, there's our brother, you know, whatever. So Will hooks it up. Will fixes it for him, which is cute. Carlton, of course, is all jealous like Carlton would be. And that is what we get in episode 3. We also get a little bit of like Aunt Viv and Hillary butting heads about the influencer thing. Episode 4. Uncle Phil has the kids campaigning for signatures, blah, blah, blah. Will and Carlton beef. Then they make up and they're like, they both made deals with each parent that if they could do this together, you know, Carlton wanted tickets to something. Will was like, well, Trey will come to come visit. And so they fight, but then they figure it out. Will comes up with like inviting the neighborhood to one of Uncle Phil's campaigning events. And so they agree to back each other up on that. Works out. In this episode also, Will finds out that Rashad knows where he's at, so he asks Jeffrey to help him with that. Jeffrey's like, got it covered. This is where we find out, like, Jeffrey, who are you, sir? Who are you? What is your background? You sly little thug. Fancy thug. Basically, he gets Rashad killed. Like, they were giving Rashad money, but then Rashad finds out who they are and wants more money, and he's like, he ain't getting no more money. He gets shot up in a strip club. And you know, yeah, he gets shot up in the strip club, and Trey's like, yo, he's gone, like we're safe. And so then he's like, oh, Trey, you're gonna get to come visit. Boop, boop. I also find out Ashley likes a girl. We don't know what she identifies as. We just know that she likes a girl. Episode 5 is Trey's visit. There's also an influencer party at the house because Hillary gets into an influencer house. She's throwing them a little party as like a thank you meet thing. And yeah, that goes how we all think it would go. Trey gets drunk, exposes to Carlton why Will's really there. Carlton is like, stay away from Lisa, because I'm gonna get her. Ha ha ha. In his drug-induced rages. And Will agrees, duh, because he's like, you know, don't want my secret ticket out. I'm having a great time here, meeting people. Trey and Will end up fighting because Will doesn't really want to go home. Then we also have Aunt Viv and Vi Will's mom fighting because she wants him to come home, while her sister is like, but this is way better for him. Which honestly, I know that it's hard as a parent, but like, girl, like, you know that that's better for your son. Like, I don't know why we're pretending like he needs to come back home. Like, so for what? So next time you freaking corrupt him? Like, girl, he's doing well. Leave it alone. In episode 6, we find out, because I completely forgot to mention, at some point in another episode, Lisa's dad is now also running for DA, because that's what Uncle Phil's running for. He's running for DA because Uncle Phil made a defund the police stance, and he is the chief of police, so there's that. Anyways, they're having an event for Lisa's mom, who died of lupus or a certain type of cancer. I cannot remember which one it was. They're doing, like, you know, their annual event that they do for her mom. Here we discover that the dad was actually seeing the little white lady he's with now, who's pregnant. He was seeing her while the mom was sick, which, damn, dude, like, the fuck? Which Lisa sensed. Carlton, of course, is doing too much. I think from the episode before, he overhears Lisa saying, like, you know, he makes it so hard to deal with my own stuff because I have to, like, coddle him. And he's like, I don't want her to coddle me. So he does more drugs the day of her mom's event when he's supposed to be performing a piece with her. And basically Will ends up getting up there and performing a different piece with her, which is very cute, very cute. And once again, we kind of see original Will in this. You know, like, original Will was always just this sweetheart with this big old heart, and that's what this Will is. I almost want to say he's like a better version. Obviously OG is the OG, but like, I don't, you know, he's just this kid with this really big heart trying to hold on to his roots and feel like he can't forget where he comes from. You know, the typical things kids from the hood deal with, honestly. Like, when they're, you know, make it out or make it big or whatever, it's like this pull of people telling you how you still gotta know where you come from or whatever. Episode 7, Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil end up at some art event away from home. They throw a party at home. I think in the beginning of this episode also, Carlton kind of realizes Connor's racist ways and is just like not having it low. He like knocks him out on the cross or something, breaks his hand, something like that. And so he doesn't invite him to the party, but he shows up at the party because the friends from the team invite him. They're like, we just want you guys to make up. And Carlton's like, okay, apologize for all the racist shit you say, and not just to me, to this guy, this guy, and this guy. And you know, they have like an Asian on the team, a Hispanic on the team, like all this. So he's basically saying, you know, like, you said this about this person, this about that person. And Connor's basically like, no, I'm privileged racist, okay? I don't need to apologize. And bounces. So then Connor calls the cops. He's like, got a little surprise for you. And then, yeah, the cops show up. They are not believing Carlton when he says that's his house until Lisa comes down and is like, talk to my daddy, ya boss. And they basically just like shut down the party. So they shut down the party. In this episode, we also have Aunt Viv acting like she dumb. Like, just acting like she dumb. I don't know how else to put it. Because, like, Michael Ealing is in this. He's, like, this guy that she knows from her past, her art past, who's like, you need to get back into this. Yeah, but he's all, like, sensual and clearly wanting her and stuff. And she's trying to act like he's not, I guess. I don't know. She gets re-inspired by him, which is, like, little suspicious. That's weird. That's suspicious. But basically, yeah, she gets re-inspired, is doing art. He like puts $12,000 down for a piece of hers because he tells her like, well, if you sell it for this much, you have to like pursue it or do it or whatever. And so then her husband like buys it for $15,000 to like, because he sees him do it or whatever. And then the husband shows up at the art place because he's like, oh, dude's gonna be there too. So he's all jealous. And then she gets all mad at her husband and is like, oh, he can't just like my art. Like, girl, please don't play that. Don't play like you don't know that this man is hella into you. Like, seriously, he can't just like want my art. No, not this guy. This specific person wants you too. He wants you and your art. Probably mostly you. So open your ho-hos, okay? Episode 8 is Will's birthday. He's starting to wonder about his dad a little bit. I think it's his 16th birthday. Is it his 18th birthday? I don't know. 17th. I think it's his 17th birthday. His mom comes to visit. Her and Aunt Viv are like, that's what they're doing. over Will, and their past, you know, all these childhood traumas coming up for everyone. Aunt Viv and Aunt Vi are bumping heads about how they grew up. Aunt Vi feeling like she had to hold it down so that Aunt Viv could live her art dream. Aunt Viv feeling like she just never really cared about her and her art and blah, blah, blah. So in this episode, Will asks Jeffrey, who I don't know if I mentioned is, I think I did when I said Rashad died, you know, thug of the century with all the connections while still being Jeffrey and no one ever finding out, because obviously everyone's digging dirt on Uncle Phil, so you would think that everyone would be like, he has a criminal as his like protector. And so Will asking for his dad's information starts a beef with Uncle Phil and Jeffrey, because for some reason Uncle Phil, Viv, and Vi are like, yeah, the best thing to do right now for our teenager is to just keep pretending or keep not telling him the whole story about his dad. That's totally smart. And Jeffrey, the logical person here, old wise Jeffrey, is like, I don't know. I think if he's asking about it, you should probably tell him the truth, you know? Like, I think he kind of deserves to know if he's wondering. And so then Uncle Phil hits him with the you work for me thing. And yeah, that's how that goes. So, okay, we're in episode 9. In episode 9, Jeffrey gets the information for Will. In episode 9, we have Carlton and Will turn a page. They're boys now. Will talks to Carlton about his drug use and like, I care about you, like I want to be here for you, you know, like whatever. So they're good, which is beautiful. It's lovely. They've kind of been turning that page, but it like this has kind of solidified that turn, you know what I mean? Will was solidified before when they talked about Lisa, but you know what I'm saying, you know where I'm at. Now we got some beef in the campaign because now Uncle Phil has the dirt that Lisa's dad cheated on the mom while she was sick, right? And Lisa's dad basically tells her he got the dirt on Will getting locked up. And Lisa's like, this is a lie. Like, he wouldn't lie. Like, he's like, go ask him. And then when you come back, I don't want to hear about this again or whatever. And Lisa goes to ask Will, which let me take it one step at a time. So basically, Uncle Phil is having a meeting with Jeffrey and his campaign manager about what to do about having that information on him. The campaign manager is like, you just gotta act on it. You gotta say it. It'll, you know, make you win or whatever. Jeffrey's like, is that really the route you want to go? Like, is that the message you've been trying to send? Then we have this really dope scene where Aunt Viv meets OG Aunt Viv and OG Vi. They are like the directors of this scholarship thing she's trying to get. It's so dope because she goes and actually, on top of like them being there, one of the art pieces she shows is Uncle Phil. I was obsessed with that scene. Like, it was so funny. Me and Cam were watching it together and I was like, oh my god, it's OG Aunt Viv. He's like, oh, and it's like OG Will's mom, because we couldn't remember her name. But like, it was just so cool. And then I like rewinded. I was like, look, it's Uncle Phil. And of course we have Lisa being so very obnoxious. She shows up. She's like, tell me this isn't you. He's like, it is. Like, this is what happened. And she's just like, I don't want to hear it, forget you, but just so you know, my dad's gonna use this tonight, like in their debate, because Uncle Phil and the police chief agreed to a debate, and whoever wins that debate, the loser will step down and the winner will step up as the Democratic Party, because if there was 2 of them, votes were going to be split and the Republican dude was going to win. So she tells them that and she leaves. Now here's the issue I got with Lisa, right? It aggravates me when people cannot look at the other side of the situation. I'm not always successful at that, but I really do try hard in situations to not just look at my side of things and try to look at what, like, where that person's coming from, what that person's going through, right? And in the situation with Will, I feel like that was so important because it's like, okay, yes, her feelings are hurt. She's like, you should have trusted me with that. It shouldn't have mattered. But then you have to look at the other side of it, where this was a situation that could like mess things up for his uncle, and then following that, you know, his family, his siblings, himself, his mom, and what his mom had to do for him. Like, he had all this weight on him of keeping this secret. And while he trusts you, that's still a lot of like pressure and a lot of like, you know, to put on that, to like think of being able to tell you. So it's like, it could have been a conversation, which also, I have to remember, I'm almost 30. These are supposed to be children in high school. And in high school, everything's dramatic and no betrayal and like, you broke my heart, right? Because like almost 30-year-old me is like, this could have just been a conversation. Like, it's that easy, guys. Just so you know, if there's any teenagers, college children watching that out here, it is just have conversations with each other. And if your partner cannot do that, just be single. Just be single. But yeah, she annoyed the crap out of me, because then it continues on in the next episode. Episode ends with Uncle Phil dropping out of the race to avoid Will's secret coming out. And I think he also just realized, like, he didn't want to fight dirty, right? Because, like, realistically, he probably could have called dude aside and been like, look, I know this and you know that, let's just leave it out of it. But he was just, like, done with this whole, right, like, secrecy and always having to watch his back thing. Drops out of the race, which is dope. Uncle Phil, we love it. We love it. Uncle Phil has learned and grown, and he's thriving, baby. All right, so now we are on episode 10, the final episode. I just realized I haven't said anything about Hillary, but Hillary gets into an influencer house. There's pressure on her to, like, post something in a certain amount of time. She's struggling. She ends up deciding to record this little, like, late night creme brulee making thing and, like, lingerie and stuff. Can't decide to put it up. Content house manager guy decides to put it up because he's basically like, I want your content, I can put it up. She's struggling with it. She gets Jazz to, like, help her, like, do all this stuff. But then when Kylo, who's the owner of the home or whatever, tells them, like, hey, like, Victoria's Secret wants to meet with you, she's like, maybe. And then Jazz is like, seriously, man? She's like, it was just, that's not you, but now it's you because of the money, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, Hillary ends up deciding, like, that it's not her, it's not for her, that's not the way she wants to do it. And the dude is basically like, well, that's what you need to do. And so she's like, well, F you, I'm leaving. And he's basically like, if you leave and breach the contract, you owe me 50 grand. So now she's trying to figure out how to pay him 50 grand. Episode 10, the Will's daddy episode, baby. So turns out Jeffrey calls Will's dad, is like, just so you know, your son wants to meet you. Because I forgot to mention, in the last episode, episode 9, Will brings what Jeffrey gave him to Uncle Phil and is like, I got Jeffrey to look into it for me, but I don't want to know, so I'm just giving this to you. Like, I don't want to know. Jeffrey, when he left, felt like Will should know, and so he called the dad, was like, you know, your son wants to meet you. So the dad shows up. They're all like, come on, Lou, like, you clown, you faker, da-da-da. So then Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv start discussing what to do about it, which it's like, not your choice. Call his mama. Like, I don't. And his uncle was like, he's living under our roof. And what about it? He's still got a mama. Like, I'm trying to understand who y'all think y'all are up in here. Like, they be acting ridiculous a little bit. But anyways, Will ends up, you know, Carlton ends up seeing the whole thing, looking at the file, tells Will, like, you should look at it. Tells him his dad was there. Will runs downstairs like, oh, so y'all wasn't gonna tell me, like, what was the plan here? Like, what y'all doing? Talking about me? I'm just kidding. The decision is made for Will to meet his dad. Then we're in Hillary, who has this, like, old church friend from her youth. And she's trying to connect with her because she's big and poppin'. And she's like, let's do this and this and this. And the girl seems with it, but something seems off. But, like, I don't know. I guess we'll see it in next season. So Carlton's coming through for Will, really being there to try to support. Will meets his dad, and at first it's going kind of well, you know, they're kind of kikiing back and forth, but then the dad starts talking about, like, the mom in a really negative light, basically saying that she pushed him to do what he did. Like, she just kept riding him about getting money and providing and da-da-da, and so she was this and she was never happy. And Will's like, watch your mouth on my mom. He's like, well, your mom was blah blah blah, and you know, he gets up, he's like, man, watch your mouth, da-da-da-da, with your bum, and then the dad, just like that. Just like that. It was, y'all don't understand. It was crazy. It was a lot. But, oh, also his dad is played by Marlon Wayans, which, by the way, I mean, he played the role pretty well. At first, I couldn't get into it, you know, like, I was like, it's Marlon. But he turned it around. He definitely turned it around. That was some powerful stuff. Basically, like, it's so funny because there's a moment where Aunt Viv is telling him, like, I don't give up. You better act like you love this boy to death. You made the biggest mistake. Like, basically tell him, like, you better give him what he needs to, like, be okay. And basically you can't tell if that's what he was doing or if he actually felt that way and was just expressing true emotions. It kind of seems like he was, because, like, when he's leaving, he's like, you know, I was trying, like, whatever, but now he has to live with what he said about not wanting to see me. So you're kind of on the fence of, like, I think he feels guilty, but his pride is outweighing that. So it's like, whatever, even though it's like you're the adult and he's a kid. But anyways, that's how it happens with his dad. Will basically gets mad at everyone and is like, I'm out. So Carlton, the family, everybody's at home. They're like, oh, could you get a hold of Jeffrey? Will ends up, yeah. They figure out why Jeffrey left, and they've ends up finding out. And so then the kids are like, why isn't Jeffrey answering your calls? And the dad's like, I don't know, you know, like, I'm sure he'll get back to us in time. And Carlton just like kind of rolls his eyes and leaves. And then we have lovely Ashley who's like, we know. Like, which makes me so annoyed because like Will just left angry because you were lying to him. Did we not get the message that lying is not a smart thing to do to children? And then you lie to your son immediately after. Like, well, to all your kids, but like it affects your son the most because like, you know, it's your son. So yeah, that's Uncle Phil. Growth and then just right back down. Right back down. Yep. So anyways, the episode ends with Jazz finding Will, I think like at a hill looking at the Hollywood sign. It was like where he took him towards the beginning of the show. And Will is just like, no one loves me. And our wonderful mentor Jazz is like, bro, there's a whole house of people looking for you. A whole house of people who want you there. Like, you're bugging. Okay? You're bugging. And he's basically like, you know, Jazz, like, you were right. You know, when I met you, like, I can't forget where I came from. Whatever line it was he gave him. And Jazz is like, it's okay to evolve from what you came from, you know? So we love that. But anyways, that's the show recap in a very long nutshell. But we love it. Like I said, I just really love that it's this original energy, but still having a little bit of the old. I really enjoyed the show. Can't wait for season 2 because I think it's so dope that they like got a season 1 and 2 on site. Like, not even with a pilot, just with the short film, I guess, or like the concept idea. I hope you guys enjoyed my little recap, my thoughts on the show. Can't wait for season 2. Like the video, comment down below your favorite character, your favorite remade character. Subscribe for more content like this, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.